Alright, we are tackling stage 11 in the version 2.0 Memory of Chaos, the Dreamland of Longing, where it focuses more on the Pentaconi bosses, namely Sam. For the teams, I am running Fire Trailblazer, Hook, Gwenevin, and Asta for Team 1, and Team 2 is going to be Misha, Shui Yi, Yukon, and March 7th. I think Team 1 is a pretty powerful team, and I would still run it even with a lot of 5 stars factored, unless you have like a Black Swan and a Kafka that can just completely decimate this half, because it's just a pretty consistent and powerful team. And yeah, it has some pretty good outputs. Trailblazer can be swapped out if you're having trouble sustaining, but I do like the AoE that are enhanced basic and alt bring, especially when you're facing the T-Rex where you can kind of detonate it through stacking up attacks on it. Hook is a very powerful DPS in this Memory of Chaos because you do have the 50% skill boost, which makes her skill or her enhanced skill a very powerful nuke. Gwenevin is just an irreplaceable unit on fire teams, since she will stack up those fire or those burns on the enemies as well as detonating the burns, and she's just great when your main DPS is running the prisoner in deep confinement. Asta is another irreplaceable unit in fire teams, especially fire burn teams, because her skill does give an attack boost which helps damage over time, while her ultimate gives you a very powerful speed boost. For Team 2, it's a little on the weaker end, but still I'd say it's pretty powerful. Misha is here as our main DPS as well as crowd control, since his ult does have a pretty strong chance to freeze. Shui Yi is here mainly just to deal with Sam, but destroying toughness bars is still very useful, and her quantum break still does a lot of damage, making her a very powerful unit. Yukon is again here to deal with Sam. Her enhanced basics and her ultimate can shred his toughness bar, but also since Shui and Misha both focus all their damage through their ults, it's very easy to sync up Yukon, Shui's, and Misha's ult to all go off at once to get a very powerful nuke off. And finally, March 7th. I'd say when going against Sam, March 7th is probably the best 4-star option, but still not the best option, just because she doesn't have an offensive skill. But if you didn't know, Sam does reduce outgoing healing by I think 90% or something, so yeah, you want a shield unit. As far as 5-star goes, if you have Japard, it would make the second fight a lot easier and would make it less of a rush to weakness break Sam, since he does have that offensive skill and that team on shield, making it possible to last in Sam's enhanced state for a lot longer. Other than that, I wouldn't say any 5-stars are really needed, like they can help clear a little bit more quickly. I think Japard on the second team is really the only one that would be nice for quality of life. Anyways, with all that out of the way, let's start with the battles. For this first half, it's nothing fancy, we're just going to use Trailblazer's technique into Asta's technique, and this is going to help get us her ult on turn 1. So we're going to be focusing on the Decaying Shadow here, and then trying to cleave the Dream Jolt, just because we can build up those Overcooked stacks, or whatever they're called, just by leaving him and letting him deal with the burn damage. And once those go up to 12 or 6 when it's in the blinking state, he'll blow up and do a bunch of damage to itself, which is very useful because it's a very tanky boss. Gwenevin will ignite all the burns, which each count for a tick of those stacks, so we can detonate him right there, which is a very easy way to deal with its entire HP bar. We'll break with Hook, just because Hook has more attack. It might die to Turbulence, so we might not even have to worry about it. If not, we have a lot of burn damage on it. So Decaying Shadow on her own is like absolutely nothing, especially when you have Asta here, because Asta just shreds her toughness bar, and if she's weakness broken, well, she has that ring behind her, she'll just recast that when she recovers. So it's a very, very simple boss. We'll use our skill here to guarantee it. We'll use our ult here so that we can move first. And this half is pretty much the same. We're going to be focusing on Svarog for the most point, but we do want to get as many burns on the Dream Jolt as possible so that we can build up those stacks. If the attacks don't inflict burn, we might as well just land them on Svarog. And I'm a little surprised it didn't crit. Jeez, I thought I had a pretty decent amount of crit rate on Hook. Yeah, we can probably hit Dream Jolt just because that doesn't do a lot of toughness bar damage. We could detonate him now, but I do want to save Gwyneth's ult to weakness break Svarog here. This sequence breaks him to some degree, because if he's weakness broken, the hand can't actually capture one of your units, which is a pretty decent way to avoid losing a unit here. And we did lose some turbulence stacks to the hand, but we couldn't have really dealt with it any other more efficient way since we don't have a lot of AoE.
Everything is stars. Give these trailblazers your blessing.
We'll get Svarog a little lower. We could potentially detonate Dream Jolt, but it doesn't move to the end of the cycle, so I don't know if we could prevent all that AoE from going off. Yeah, might as well just weakness break it here. So now we take the shrewd bombing that we prevented from going off last time, and we'll just take down Dream Jolt so that we isolate Svarog to take the full brunt of the turbulence damage. Yeah, Hook skill is a pretty powerful nuke with this turbulence buff, which is really nice. And at 8%, that thing's gonna die to like damage over time, or even Hook's next action if the damage over time doesn't do it. We did mess up his pattern by breaking him midway through his last turn, so it's a little weird now, but it's nothing that can't handle. For this, we'll just use Misha's technique and probably March 7th. Yukon is another decent option because you'll get the roaring bowstrings at the start and a little bit more energy regen. But I think the freeze also has its own value. Unfortunately, none of them have quantum weaknesses, so Shui's technique doesn't do a lot. We'll get the aggro on March 7th just to kind of direct Direwolf's damage because we don't want our HP too low going into the next fight. Because, yeah, it's just a little bit more difficult. We might as well freeze here. This will also trigger Shui's passive. Luckily, we got 2 procs on Direwolf, so we were actually able to weakness break it. It was a little RNG though, because I wasn't really sure who would hit. Now this is going to be our high damage turn, where we get Yukon's ultimate into Shui's ult and Misha's ult. Shui's ult was kind of wasted there. It would have been better if it had a larger toughness bar, but she's mostly around to deal with Sam. So, yeah. It was a little unoptimal, but we'll still get through the stage. Now that Direwolf recovered, we'll continue focusing on him just to build up Shui's passive stacks. And then we can probably get our last stack of entanglement through Misha's, or even Shui's talent there, or passive. All unfortunate. I'll continue focusing Direwolf to some degree. We'll probably get another Shui passive, so we might as well make sure that the boss is isolated. Okay, maybe not.
Stay the course.
We could have saved a cycle there, but I don't think we'll need it, so I'm fine with sacrificing it. Now we're going to save up most of our ultimates until Sam goes into his enhanced state. This is going to be playing it more safe than rushing, because I'd say Sam is a very scary boss, and just trying to be hasty and rushing the battle can definitely backfire, and we have a lot of time to work with, so I'm definitely fine with losing out on some DPS just to make sure that we have all of our ults ready. Going to, again, sequence break Sam here. If we can freeze him in between these 2 turns, we can make sure his ult gets out a turn later. Because if we just let it be, his ult would come out next turn. But if we can freeze with Misha here, he'll use his next turn using 2 attacks, and then he'll come out on the turn after. So yeah, it just saves you some time before you have to take a lot of damage. which just means we have more time to get all of our March 7th shields on everyone.
My turn.
And we just focus Sam. We want to weakness break him as quickly as possible, because if I'm being honest, this team will not survive multiple cycles of Sam in his enhanced state, so we've got to make sure to break him out a bit.
Try that again.
Normally, that attack there would have been his ult, but since we froze him and messed up his pattern, we managed to save ourselves the turn. Okay, we'll throw another shield on Shui since we are going to be tanking Sam's ult next.
Gotta try hard.
If we freeze, that'd be great, but we don't need it, I suppose. Oh, right. Didn't delay him by that much, but whatever.
Try that again.
By the order of the Ten Lords, execute the Marastruck!
We won't get the talent off, but we can still break him with Shui's next turn.
It's time.
We almost have our Yukon ult, so I'll wait till she moves before using Misha's ultimate,
As easy to the clock.
just so that we can maximize our damage here.
From the bow.
And Misha will get a pretty powerful turn off. Unfortunately, Misha doesn't really benefit a lot from this Memory of Chaos buff, which is a shame. Like, he has a very powerful hitting ult, but he doesn't really benefit a lot from the skill and basic attack boost, because his skill does still hit hard, but it's not as crazy as it is on like a Hook or a Chinchua or something.
Gale Force.
Now I'll use the buff here to get one more stack of Turbulence.
My turn.
I really tell the boss has a lot of HP when the Turbulence does like 72k with each tick. Okay. The boss is definitely dead to the next Turbulence. He's going to go enhanced here, but I don't think it matters.
Try that again.
Yeah, he dies before the next cycle. So, we're fine. Yeah, alright fight. Not super scary, but we handled it pretty well. Alright, and that is it for stage 20. Overall, not too terrible. Sam does pose an interesting problem in the later stages, but as long as you can pretty much stun him and break his weakness bar once, he benefits the Memory of Turbulence buff very much because he just regenerates all your skill points for free. We'll go over the unit stats now. Nothing too fancy for Trailblazer. Just have the Knight of Purity Palace to increase the shields, and then Penacony because it does increase our fire damage. Hook's running a pretty standard set as well, going with the Prisoner in Deep Confinement, which is one of the best relic sets for a DOT team since you're gonna be guaranteed to max out all three of those stacks. Guinevere is running a sub DPS set because she does do quite a bit of damage, and it is a shame if you don't run her as a DPS of sorts. Asta, I'm running Meshing Cogs just so that her ult has higher uptime, and she also has Messenger and Broken Keel to just provide some extra buffs. Misha was more or less our main DPS for Team 2. Misha, well, the bounce does make him a little bit more unreliable. Still does some pretty good numbers, especially when you can get Yukon's ult out there, because he's going to have like Yukon's ult plus the freeze crit damage boost, so yeah, you can do some pretty good numbers. Shui, I wish I had more limit breaks of this thing, but I got like 24 dance light cones on pulling the light cone banner, so 2 limit breaks is all it's gonna get. I ran her with the Genius of Brilliant Stars because her main goal was to take down Sam a little bit more, and if I wanted her to be a little bit more of a breaker, Difa's Shooting Stars is a pretty good other set. But yeah, I think Genius was an alright set for her, even if she was just meant to take on Sam. Yukon has the Dance Light Cone, and I am running her a little bit DPS oriented, just because her ult does provide some pretty decent damage. And last but not least, March 7th, who was mainly here to deal with Sam, since he, I think, reduces your healing by 90%, so it's really hard to run a healer. And yeah, I have her running a Broken Keel set here, just to increase our crit damage. Anyways, that is the end of this video. Thanks for watching, And next will be stage 10 coming out probably tomorrow or the next few days. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, thanks for watching.